Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
Pumped up on Mars juice and ketamine.
He is the Thomas Edison plus of our age.
Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy.
I would say 98% really appreciate what he does, but those 2% that are nasty, they are out there in full force.
We are meant for great things in the United States of America, and Elon reminds us of that.
We don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk.
Welcome to Elon Inc. Max Chafkin here, joining you for a special emergency edition of the podcast. It's about 1 o'clock on Thursday, as June 5th, as we're recording this, and Donald Trump has been making comments about Elon Musk in the Oval Office. They were so explosive, so negative that we wanted to get here quickly and talk about them. If you've been listening to the podcast, the question of how long will this relationship last? How long can these two men who have different egos, different ideological points of view, has been kind of something we've talked about for basically a year. And we have been saying all along, at least I have been saying, that they need each other and that for all of the kind of tension and some of the signaling that we've seen on Twitter or whatever from Musk, that it's basically no big deal. And I have to say, David Papadopoulos, who has been taking the opposite position, looking a little bit more like he was right on this one, wanted to bring in Josh Green, Bloomberg Businessweek, political reporter, friend of the show, author of The Devil's Bargain, to talk about this. Josh, how are you doing?
Doing great. Just sitting down here in D.C. amidst all the drama. As somebody on Twitter said, it's like we've reached the mom and dad are screaming at each other in the car phase of the divorce. So it's a really exciting moment to be joining you.
All right, so about that. So let's just, first of all, Trump is in the Oval with Friedrich Merz, the new chancellor of Germany. He's getting asked all sorts of questions about Vladimir Putin and so on. And then someone asks him about Elon Musk, who has, basically for 3-4 days now, just been essentially tweeting nonstop about how the big, beautiful bill, as Trump calls it, I guess that's the formal name, how terrible it is. And let's listen to a little bit about what Trump had to say about that.
He knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
It would have been possible, I guess, for Elon to try to kind of patch things up here, but instead he has been going off on Twitter. He actually responded to this one saying, "False. This bill was never shown to me even once and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it." A little bit later, he said Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Trump has kept talking. Let's listen to one more clip.
He's not the first. People leave my administration and they love us. And then at some point they miss it so badly. And some of them embrace it and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it. But we have it with others too. They leave and they wake up in the morning and the glamour's gone. The whole world is different. And they become hostile. I don't know what it is. Someday you'll write a book about it and you'll let us know.
Josh, you have written about this extensively, the extent to which people in Trump's orbit can sometimes become, quote, hostile, as the president calls it. What's kind of your reaction to this? I mean, I feel like you all along have been predicting this. And I think all along I've been saying, I don't know. And here we are. I feel like that your predictions have finally been borne out.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have, just by the evidence of the last 48 hours. But I don't want to spike the football because I thought this would happen back in January. I'm still amazed that the bromance lasted as long as it did, because as we're now seeing play out in the ugliest form in Twitter and in the Oval Office, both of these guys have tremendous egos. They have to be the main character. There isn't room for a co-star. And, Elon is hurt. I think that the Doge effort was largely a failure. Now he's going back to deal with his private companies, including Tesla, that are reeling. He's obviously nursing wounds over some of the cuts in the big, beautiful bill, and has just decided to have a big, ugly public tantrum about it, which is kind of what we come to expect from him.
Yeah, and Trump mentioned this. I mean, he said Elon's problem with the bill is these EV subsidies. These are the tax credits that essentially made Tesla's cars and the cars of other EV makers cheaper. And Trump's right. He was on the campaign trail saying this like every single day. We're going to end the EV mandate. We're going to end the EV mandate. And somehow Elon Musk like looked past it or something. It's a strange thing. Trump also said that the reason he pulled Jared Isaacman's nomination, the nomination for the head of NASA, was because this is a friend of Elon Musk and he thought it was inappropriate. So it's kind of like both these guys are now discovering things that I think were sort of obvious all along.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the other factor about the EV mandates is I believe at some point Elon was asked about this and indicated he was fine with it, back when this stuff was bouncing around during the campaign. I think he's sort of grasping for any weapon at hand to try and criticize Trump and express his deep unhappiness over, I guess, how his tenure went in Washington, what his relationship with Trump and the Trump White House is like. And I think really what he wasn't able to accomplish. Remember, he went in originally, he's going to cut $1 trillion, and he came out in Madison Square Garden and said, no, $2 trillion. And, the first legislative manifestation of those cuts is about to come before Congress, and it's a piddling $9 billion. And it's not even clear that that's going to pass. I mean, they're talking about wiping out NPR and Big Bird and Sesame Street, and even that might not get over the finish line. So I think it kind of underscores the degree to which Elon has failed in the goals that he set out for himself. And again, that public failure is just sort of spilling out across Twitter.
I think he does care about these EV mandates. And my take, and I should say, Elon, in this barrage of tweets that he's been firing off over the last hour or so, did say, whatever, keep the EV and solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil gas subsidies are touched, parentheses, very unfair, double exclamation point, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork, all in all caps, in the bill. So he's saying, look, I'm willing to let the EV subsidies slide. I do think, Josh, that there's been a change, because back when Elon was sort of okay with this, Tesla's finances looked way, way better. And now you have this huge demand problem. The idea that he's facing having to make his cars $7,500 more expensive, which is the potential upshot. I think the state of play has changed maybe a little bit, and that could be part of it. But I also think you're right. I mean, he set up almost this impossible task for himself. There were lots of people at the time saying there's no way he's ever going to be able to cut $2 trillion or $1 trillion or even less than that. And now, he's sort of confronted with the essential failure of this Doge project.
Yeah, he has. And there's been a movement on the right in MAGA circles among Elon's enemies for a few weeks now. It's really ramped up in the last 48 hours. Steve Bannon on his podcast yesterday was saying, Elon, you promised us fraud, waste, and abuse. Show us the receipts. There's no fraud that meaningful fraud we can detect in Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Show us the goods. And I think another reason that the big, beautiful bill is so fat and ugly, as Elon put it, was that he just wasn't able to come up with these compensating cuts. And so you have the Congressional Budget Office coming out yesterday and saying, yes, this bill is going to add $2.4 trillion to the deficit. So in terms of an offset for all the spending that Trump and Republicans want, they were really counting on Elon to deliver that, and he failed.
Yeah, counting, pretty unrealistic, but yes. I mean,
He sort of left holding the bag. I mean, in terms of blame, and now you can see all these people like Bannon, Trump allies in Congress, kind of turning on him and making him out to be the bad guy.
Okay, Josh, let's talk about where this goes. I mean, this is going to continue to unfold. We'll talk about this at length, I know, on future podcasts, but so it sort of seemed like two possibilities to me. One is they could patch things up at some point. Trump, even though they're at each other's, dissing each other on Twitter, Trump was kind of saying he hasn't been attacking me. There seems to be just the faintest crack for them to somehow reconcile, although it seems like it's getting harder and harder by the minute. The other thing is, could Elon embrace the Democrats, or does he just sort of ally with the kind of super hard right deficit hawk, Thomas Massie, Rand Paul faction of the Republican Party? Like, I assume, and he's sort of said like he's going to throw the bums out. Sounds like he's still gearing up to spend money during the midterm, but like, where does that money go?
Yeah, it's not exactly clear to me. I'm not sure it's clear to him either. I mean, he's just sort of having an emotional crisis, like, loud and proud, out across X and Twitter for all of us to see. I mean, I personally have thought that like the devastating move that some trollish, enterprising, high-profile Democrat would make is to get out there like right now and start publicly banging the drums and saying, these EV tax credits are good. We need to get them back in the bill and get rid of those oil and gas credits, and see if you could kind of tempt Elon into jumping over to your side and maybe attacking Elon even more. Maybe somebody like a Gavin Newsom or a Rahm Emanuel or somebody out there who's good at
Ro Khanna even, who's kind of doing it just a tiniest bit, although, I'm not sure that he's on the level of the guys you just mentioned.
I don't think Ro quite has the fire in the belly and the kind of like implicit trollish personality that would be required to kind of carry this off at the highest level, because you would also need to kind of anger Trump and turn this into like a big fight, like a big thing. But it's certainly doable. I mean, I've been getting texts like all day long from Democrats being like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. They finally broken up. Mom and dad are fighting. Washington is riveted. So anything could kind of happen from this point on.
Yeah, and I don't think what you're suggesting is crazy. He's fickle, and he is, he will go where he sees advantage. And I think the one thing that's kind of stopping this is that he's carving out an ideological position that is pretty incompatible with like Gavin Newsom. It's like, hey, we need to cut Medicaid more. It's not so like that's what makes me wonder if maybe there is a chance of a reconciliation.
Yeah, well, look, I would say on the policy front, I mean, Elon, like Trump, doesn't seem to be a man of like fixed principles when it comes to like the full panoply of like U.S. public policy that certainly cares about EV mandates. That's important for his business, but whether he could be tempted to come around and maybe forswear Medicaid cuts for something else, who knows? I think the bigger problem for Democrats is that if you sidle up to Elon Musk, you're going to anger a lot of the base, because Musk is now, I think, even more unpopular among Democratic voters than Donald Trump himself is, and we saw the fallout of that in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's possible that he's just going to find himself in some kind of weird, uncanny valley where no one likes him, where the Trump voters are mad at him, the Democrats are mad at him.
That's where my money would,
just one more piece of late breaking news. He has stopped following Trump advisor Stephen Miller on X.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that was his greatest ally and perhaps his last ally in the Trump administration. So that is quite a blow, and that will lead to all sorts of gossip in Washington about whether it's just the fallout with Trump or whether there's some other story behind the scenes we're not privy to about why Stephen Miller would be so angry at Elon Musk.
Now, I'm sure we will talk about all that more on a later episode. Josh Green, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
This episode was created, produced, conceived, supervised by Magnus Hendrickson, our supervising producer, edited by Anna Mazarakis. Our executive producer is Brendan Francis Newnham. Sage Bauman heads Bloomberg Podcasts. If you like this episode, please rate and review it. We will really appreciate it, and we will see you at our regularly scheduled time next week.